Okay. This is the Oregon City Planning Commission special meeting of April 20th and 2026, and I will convene the meeting at this moment, and we'll have a roll call.
Yes, sir. Commissioner LaSalle?
Here.
Commissioner Long?
Here.
Here.
Commissioner Henderson?
Present.
Mining is excused. Vice Chair Dole?
Here.
And Chair Henderson.
Here. Okay, so we have on the agenda this evening GLUA 250025 and SCU 250001, MAS 250001, Park 254001, 1367 Molalla Avenue, Masterplan General, I'm sorry? Okay. General Development Plan approval, conditional use approval for the drive-through uses and maximum parking adjustment. And then we also have, under that same is the MAS 25002, GEO 2500007, NROD 2500012, 1367 Molalla Avenue, detailed development review for the construction of the new public road. On Parcel C. So those are the two applications that are tied together under this review this evening, and with the record is now closed and it is for deliberation only this evening. There will be no public testimony, no testimony from the applicant. And at this point, it will go to the commission, or I guess maybe we have a brief statement from the staff.
Thank you, Chair. One thing I was going to encourage is to ask the commissioners for any ex parte, disclosures of ex parte communications between the last meeting and this meeting.
So that's right. We are to be unbiased, and as a result, I'll call on each commissioner to disclose any potential conflicts, such as family, financial, or business relationships. We also had an article that was published by, I believe, by the Oregonian on this particular project. You might want to mention whether or not you have read that, you know, maybe briefly what you might have learned and whether or not it would affect your ability to make a unbiased decision this evening. Okay, so we'll start with Commissioner LaSalle.
I have no bias, ex parte contact. I've driven by the location several times. I did not see the article in the Oregonian.
Yeah, no bias, no conflict, no ex parte outside the article. I did see the article and I did read the article. And I did also make one more visit to the site.
Commissioner Laws?
No bias, no ex parte contact. I did see the article, and the article just seemed to be jaded and just a view, which didn't impact my view of anything that I've experienced in these meetings.
Okay.
No bias. Also saw the article, read it, don't even remember what it said at this point.
No ex parte contacts, no conflicts, no bias. Was communicated to that article existed, specifically did not read it. And I have reviewed the applicant's final written argument. Since our last meeting, I did not visit the site again.
Okay. Right, and I have not been by the site. I don't have any conflicts or bias. I did read the article, but it really was a reiteration of just what's been going on in the hearing and what the project is, you know, the nature of the project. So without any further, I'll go ahead and turn it over to staff for any presentation.
Okay, Chair, if you could let's just go ahead and ask if anybody present wants to rebut the substance of those ex parte disclosures.
I don't see anybody in the audience, but if there is anybody that would like to rebut any of the declarations that the commissioners have, go ahead and provide that information, or you can come up and discuss that. Hearing none.
We do have two people online.
Oh, we have
so
people
just give them a few
online,
seconds
that's
to
right.
Identify.
I apologize. So is there anybody online that is interested in adding to this discussion regarding bias? Hearing none. Now we can. Is everybody?
They're good.
Okay. Okay, good. Yeah, I didn't
Thank
see
you,
him.
Chair.
I don't see it on my screen. I got to look over there, and yeah, it's a little bit. Okay, good. All right. So now we can go ahead and turn it over to staff for
Could we have the slides up,
any
please?
comments,
Thank you. I know it's a lot.
presentation.
Okay, Commissioners, Christina, the staff's going to, has just 2 slides that recap sort of what your job and your role is tonight, and that is to deliberate and make a decision. When you deliberate, I don't know if all of you or any of you have deliberated to a decision before. I don't think you all have together, maybe once. But your job is to determine whether the applicant has met its burden of proof to show that all of the applicable criteria are met, and that is the job. That's going to require you to probably interpret applicable approval criteria. It's going to probably require you to identify evidence in the record that leads to your conclusion that a criterion is or is not satisfied. Just as a direction there, personal knowledge is not evidence in the record, so please refrain from discussing personal knowledge of the site or of, your background in general if you're an expert in something.
Right.
Those are basically my directives, and we're available here to guide you to places in the staff report that would be able to answer your questions, but staff is also not allowed to present any new evidence, and so we'll be real careful not to do that. And I want to ask if the commissioners have any questions about, your role before Christina starts.
So just to reiterate, just based, our deliberation should be based on all the evidence that is in the written materials, period.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Kelly, can you do slide 2? So as you answer the questions, and we'll go back to slide 1, when you are ready and you feel like there is a motion available, there'll be 2 motions tonight. One will be a motion for the master plan and a vote, and one will be the motion for the development plan and a vote. And really, you kind of have 3 options tonight. You can approve the proposal with the conditions and which is staff's recommendation, and as well as adopt their findings. One thing, the condition number 14, as I mentioned in the last week, wasn't added to the revised staff report, so you can put that in your motion. If you are moving to approve that the condition number 14 as amended in staff's presentation can be, which is relating to the enhanced landscaping under the power lines to allow smaller trees on the parcel A and D along Molalla Avenue. So there was a red line version in staff's presentation. That motion will just bring that in and we'll add it to the notice of decision conditions. So you can do that as part of your motion because it wasn't added to the revised staff report. You can approve the proposal with modified conditions and provide revised findings. And so because time is an essence, we need to make a decision tonight as a planning commission. So if you have modified conditions or modified findings, please talk them through and let staff know. We'll need to write them up, and we probably might have them on the screen, and that's something you will adopt as well in your motion. And then you can deny the proposal and provide revised findings, same thing. Those revised findings will be written up and approved by you as part of your motion tonight. We don't have time to come back to the Planning Commission and have a write-up of your conversation this evening.
Right, and so part of that discussion would include, the CERC plan and the, safeness of the drive-through lanes and parking,
Yeah, so
that
if
kind
you
of
have
stuff too.
any, number 2 would be approve the proposal but with modified conditions. You need to identify the condition, how you would modify it, and then the findings that got you to that modified condition. And that can be part of an approval, but we'll need to write it up, and we might have a 5-minute recess while we write it up.
All right. Fair enough. So that's it?
That's it.
That's
So
all
I'm
you
going to
got?
go back to
Okay.
slide 1. And once again, the record's closed. We're not really here to provide clarifying answers.
Yeah.
So for the most part, you can have your deliberations. And if you have questions about where in the staff report or exhibits you can find findings to support what you're discussing, we can help guide that.
Okay. Great. Thank you. Okay, so I will go ahead and open it up to the commissioners, and we will go ahead and take a look at what staff has provided us as far as our options go. Maybe we can start by saying, determining whether or not, we can actually answer these questions and agree with where staff is going on this. Bob, you want me to start? Do you want me to start with you?
That's fine. Of course, I've read Cypress's interpretation and final arguments, and it seems to me that they put a pretty good argument forth in their receiving notification of the planned use trail back in the back of the park. They were brought forth to them on March 23rd and 24th. A complete surprise to them. It's no fault of the developer that it was brought up at such a late date. And to me, the proposed path is truly a path to nowhere. I have real doubts that it would be used very much. The applicant's geotechnical or geothermal report demonstrates that they've adequately addressed the landslide issue back there using engineered stabilization measures, and that was in fact confirmed by the city's geotechnical engineer on April 1st, 2026, and is in compliance with OCMC 1744-060L. And considering all that, and I would, when appropriate, like to make a motion.
Okay. Commissioner Joel?
Yeah, thank you. I agree with Commissioner Sal. I think the applicant did a pretty good job addressing the concerns of the geologic hazard. I feel that with the recommendations of the 35-foot setback for any habitable structures, there isn't a life safety major implication here. When you look at the proposed development, it's parking, it's landscape, it's pedestrian path, which I feel based on the geotech's report, I feel I'm comfortable with that. So I don't feel like there's any adverse effect in allowing the applicant to move forward as is. I have mixed feelings on the pedestrian path. I do feel that, in the time being, it is a path to nowhere, but I do believe it falls in line with our TSP plan, Metro's plan, and we hope that, someday the rest of the path would be continued and built. So I think with that, in my mind, most of the conditions as written, I'm fine with the exception of number 11. I would be interested in a motion that maybe revises that condition of approval.
Can we jump in if we have specific
Yeah,
questions
well,
of?
I think what I want to do is kind of just go around the horn and get everybody's general statement, and then, once we start discussing, we can chime in. But
I was hoping just for a clarification on the position, which is staff is saying that specifically 1744-060L and the condition of approval, I think it's 11. Are you proposing that we are abiding by specifically staff's interpretation, or are you suggesting that we adjust that condition of approval?
I am saying that I would be open to an adjustment of that condition of approval, not requiring the applicant to revise their master plan when they move forward with the rest of the development.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, and it might be helpful too, Kelly, could we pull up the map with the overlays on top of it? And we'll give you a moment to find that because it's in there somewhere.
That would be in staff's presentation from 413. It'd probably be one of the mid slides of that, and that's in the record. So you can open that from the commission agenda.
The reason why I'm asking is I think it might be helpful to the commission just to kind of see, to understand what I was saying in terms of the buffer, the actual hazard, and where that overlays on the development. Because I do believe from the original application, the location of the apartment building, the easterly apartment building has changed and has moved further west. And therefore, most of the development site improvements in the buffer are, again, just flat work. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
You want me to speak?
Yeah, no, it's fine.
Okay, I mean, I've saw some modifications and I did not, let me put my mic on. Excuse me. And I did not see, I like the improvements from what I saw. I do see the path to nowhere. I can see a concern about the path. I didn't see any information about, did I see any information? I was going through, I had limited time over the weekend about the barricade, any barricade or anything about, because the neighbors were concerned. Did we address that at all in the notes? I didn't see anything about that in the notes at all. Not that it was a requirement or anything either. I didn't
I'm
see
unaware that
anything.
there's something in the staff report for
Yeah.
that level of detail.
Yeah. Was there any information about, I didn't see any of that in the notes whatsoever or any staff report. Because the neighbors came and addressed any issues about, it didn't seem that was addressed at all because the neighbors were addressing the issue about possibly, needing a barricade of some sort with foot traffic, but because they're concerned about their road being parked on or.
I don't believe there's anything in the record or the staff report at all about
Right,
that
'cause
issue.
there was something that was going to be possibly entertained, that we were mentioning as maybe possibly to be addressed, but it wasn't a requirement either. It was something that we were mentioning because the neighbors were concerned about their road being parked on and the foot traffic. Because what we've seen with Chick-fil-A, if a Chick-fil-A is coming there, right, is the traffic actually goes out to the road, right? And we've seen this with Dutch Brothers too, where we've seen it go, Molalla is limited on what it can do, right? And then if people are actually parking and if the apartment complex already is there and people are parking, the neighbors were concerned about their parking issue on their small street. And they came to testify. So is there any type of solution with that?
Well, Commissioner, if the commissioners can always propose additional conditions of approval, such as some sort of barricade, but the level of detail right now for that particular lot is very high level because remember,
Right.
there's no site plan or development plan for Parcel B, the residential parcel that is getting approved. What is in the record is conceptual only for
Well,
Parcel B.
I would like to discuss that a bit because if this is going to get approved, that side road, those neighbors already have a huge burden. So that's something I would like to look at before we do approve this because that neighborhood and that side street is a small side street that's going to take on a huge burden. So if we can look at that too before we close this today. So.
Good.
So while I agree that the geotechnical report says it would be safe to do it, I think our staff's interpretation of the code is pretty clear and even just the plain reading of the code, I think it's pretty clear. So I don't even know if it should even be up to an interpretation since it seems, at least to me, pretty unambiguous on what the code allows, which is unfortunate because the science says it's safe and I think overall the plan looks good. but I don't see how we can go with the applicant's interpretation of 1744-065, 060L, because the code by itself is pretty straightforward, recently revised, and our own staff disagrees with it pretty strongly. And the layout of the argument in the staff report is pretty clear to me, and in general, I'm in agreement with that. I additionally think there would need to be an additional condition of approval on the drive-throughs, because I don't think they're necessarily safe as designed, which is one of the things we want to discuss tonight, especially the Chick-fil-A one, but also the mixed retail, because they're depositing cars that have just picked up their food or whatever right into the path of pedestrian traffic trying to access the store. It seems like a very unsafe and poor design. I think that covers it.
Okay, all right. So with regards to the pathway, I always try to look at the code and what the code allows and what we've done precedent-wise, what our master plans have said, what our transportation system plan has said, and I think we recently approved, or I think the last time I was doing this, we did a multimodal transportation system plan, right? And so what that means is that we are doing pathways and walkways and all kinds of other things that are pedestrian friendly and that help pedestrians and help us get from A to B in a way other than the automobile. And so and since it is on our master plan to do, I think that is really what we should do. And I think that we miss an opportunity if we take an in-lieu fee, and historically, in-lieu fees really don't come out to projects. Further down the road, there's lots of other developments, and then it gets forgotten about and it never gets built. So I would say that the path requirement has some relationship or rough proportionality as would a sidewalk or any other type of infrastructure that is required proportional to that development. And it's going just along that property, as they say in Dolan. So I would say that we are justified for asking for not only the right-of-way and everything else, but the actual construction of that walkway. And it should be up out of the, geologic hazard area as suggested by staff. It would also promote connectivity with further developments and additional developments in that area. So I am in support of the pathway. I think the applicant's final findings brought up an economic impact, and I don't think that's really part of the discussion because we do not look at economic impact as a part of our code review. So, and then as far as OCMC 1744060L goes, that was a toss-up for me. I saw where staff was going on that, and then I also saw where the applicant, fell on that as well. But I think if you want to argue that it is discretionary, which I don't really think it is, then staff has the discretion to add a condition of approval to move the development up and out of the boundary. And I believe that's what staff is proposing, correct? Yeah, okay, so I just want to make sure if I'm out of alignment with that, but I did read, what you guys did, and I agree with it. I think that's what we really should do. So that provision does say the review authority may allow development in a known potential hazard area as provided in this chapter if specific findings are made that the specific provisions of the design of the proposed development will prevent landslides and damage. Okay, so they provided a geotechnical analysis that said it would prevent damage, but we say that they should move it out so that the potential for damage would be further ameliorated or mitigated, correct? And so I would say, so then I would agree with the final line in this is that the review authority may impose any conditions, including limits on the type or intensity of land use in those areas which determines that are necessary to ensure that landslides or property and damage will not occur. So we have, the city has had a history of building things, building developments on the rim of Mule Creek Canyon and inside the canyon and everywhere around the canyon, and the results have not been good. I have been in this city for a pretty long time, and I have been to many of these hearings related to that, and I don't want to add any more to that, but I think as far as the history goes, the geologic history, I think it's probably much better. The safer money is really to make sure that the development, or the majority of the development, stays out of the geologic hazard area. And I hope I didn't go too far that way, but I just wanted to say that I think really precedent dictates that we make sure that they are within the boundaries set by the city for the geologic hazard areas, as staff suggests. Is that correct?
It is what the city suggests as proper interpretation of subsection L. That is correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, and then I've got,
Actually, Commissioner Henderson, I think, has not weighed in. And I don't know if he wants to.
oh, I thought you had your, I apologize. I'm so sorry. I've got a couple more points, but go ahead. Yeah.
Do you want to finish?
No, well, I mean, as far as the parking, as far as the request for additional parking, again, I think that the more impervious surface you have on a site that is adjacent to a geotechnical or a geologic hazard area is not a good mix. So I think that so in order to enable the city to reduce the amount of stormwater requirements and that sort of thing, I think that the amount of impervious surface should also be reduced. So I really don't support the additional parking. And then I also agree with the change in circulation pattern for Chick-fil-A as far as the drive-through lanes go. Go ahead. Yeah.
So a few thoughts. I've never been involved with a deliberation before with all of you, so you'll realize that I'm pretty type A, so we're going to dive into code a bit here. So first of all, I believe there's 4 items we're discussing, and correct me if I'm wrong, Chair, but we have a variance, we have a conditional use, we have the path, and we have geotech. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So first of all, in regards to the variance and conditional use, I went and looked at the comp plan where it defines mixed-use corridor. It's actually slightly different than the narrative that's in the zoning code. It talks about the Metro's corridor design type. So 7th and Molalla is really supposed to be a commercial corridor, right? Mixed-use commercial corridor. Density along the road. You don't want to drive and take a look at huge parking lots and parks. However, I then noticed that parks is actually an approved use in MUC. So, first of all, as it relates to the parking, and similar thoughts to what you had, but why do we have a parking maximum? So, highest and best use within the urban growth boundary, promote other forms of transportation, reduce heat island effect, whatever the reasons are for having it, there's a reason why we have a maximum. And so one way to deal with this is we go in with code allowed parking. If in the future there is a change which requires potentially increasing that parking, they do have the ability in the DDP to do a type 3. It means they're coming back to us. Staff has more work, we have more work. But that is one path we could take. I actually have less issue with Parcel D than Parcel A. So for me, Parcel A, when you don't know what that use is going to be, what the parking requirement's going to be, we've added a drive-through. That one I'm less excited about.
2 drive-throughs.
2 drive-throughs, you mean 2 lanes on that? For Parcel A?
Drive-through, and then also the speculation building will also have a drive-through as well.
Right, so Parcel A. But Parcel D, which has a drive-through, I think that's better designed. I think the building's closer to Molalla. So I'm actually okay with the increased parking and drive-through on Parcel D. On Parcel A, I don't think we increase the parking. I do think, as far as the drive-throughs are concerned, We have general commercial right across the street. General commercial, you're allowed to have drive-throughs. I looked to see this parcel, is there something unique about it? Adjacency to certain residential where it shouldn't be general commercial but needed to be MUC? All that commercial is adjacent to the exact same residential. You're looking at Beaver Creek and Molalla. If there is a place to approve a drive-through, this seems appropriate. So anyway, that's my position on those two ones. As it relates to the path, anytime you are doing a path in segments, it is always a path to nowhere. That's the way it's going to be because you're putting those pieces together. So I do think it's important to have that path. I'm okay actually with what was proposed, which is a dedication and in lieu of fee. However, it sounds like we've had different experiences on how that works, but I'm okay with that. The geotech is a complete different issue, so I appreciate your patience as we kind of dive into this.
Right, and you know, I mean, it's good to read the geotech, but I rely pretty heavily on the city's geotechnical engineering opinion and staff for that, since I am not a geotechnical engineer and I don't know very much about it. So that's where I'm at with that.
I'm not a professional engineer. I have a BS in civil engineering. I've seen hundreds of the geotech reports.
Okay.
So it was important to me to dive into the details to understand what is being proposed and why. 1744-060L, if you look at the plain language in it, the review authority is us. This is a type 3, so the review authority is us, right? And prevent is used twice. That word is used twice, to keep from happening or existing. So we are not talking about a design that decreases the probability of a landslide. It is outright preventing it. So if we are approving something, we have to be 100% sure that that design will prevent outright all landslides in the future. And in fact, the last line assures that landslides or property damage will not occur. I don't know about you guys, that is quite a statement for us to make. One other thing that I found interesting in here, the review authority shall consult with the city's geotechnical engineer in making this determination. So the city uses a third-party geotechnical engineer. Did you guys see in the record a memo, an email, a report of any type commenting on the geotech report from the applicant?
Only the memo from the city engineer that said something about a geotechnical engineer saying that it was okay.
In his presentation last week, he said that the city reviewed it and agreed with it.
And the one thing that we requested specifically for this hearing was a written statement from the city's geotechnical engineer on that. And-
So commissioners, there isn't anything written in the record from the city's third-party geotechnical engineer. I can confirm that. I believe the testimony, which I reviewed the hearing video today in full, and the testimony from the assistant city engineer given last week was that there is not a city third-party geotechnical engineer commentary in the record because the city's position is that subsection L isn't available for this development because, and I quote the city engineer, "The code is intentionally more conservative than the science." So that's what I can tell you is in the record.
Okay.
Well, I thought that I read in the applicant's final statement that they referred to it, city's geotechnical engineer on April 1st of 2026 that they're in compliance with OCMC 17 blah, blah, blah. That's what was in their final argument.
Well, yeah, and that's based on their argument that part of the code is discretionary.
Okay.
Yeah, and it is discretionary, if I may.
And if they can design their way out of it.
But it's discretionary
Yeah.
that it allows the city to say, okay, the code says you can only do up to 4,000, but in fact, we can actually make that more restrictive.
Exactly.
I don't see anywhere in that discretion where it lets us make it less restrictive.
Right.
So it is discretionary, just on the conservative side.
Yeah.
But I do feel that that statement includes, I'm going to borrow
Yeah, go
this real
ahead.
quick,
Yeah,
Paul,
yeah.
yeah. That proposed methods of rendering a known or potential hazard site safe for construction, including proposed geotechnical remediation methods, are feasible and adequate to prevent landslides or damages to property and safety. I feel that is clearly stated in the applicant's geotech report. And quite frankly, when you look at the recommendations from the geotech, they're requiring the developer to spend an absurd amount of money to ensure the safety of that site. The recommendation is that they go down deep with foundations, can't find the right words, but with retaining walls, going down to bedrock. They're embedding piles 5 feet into bedrock to ensure the safety. And when you look at the safety factors they applied in the calculations, not being an engineer, it far exceeds the code requirements. So I feel like they were within line with that statement in subsection L.
I would further like to say that I feel that we should totally eliminate that trail. I don't see any purpose to it. Granted, we have a trail system designed throughout the city, but what would that trail serve besides one isolated small group of homes and the homeless coming in and out of Newell Creek Canyon? I don't see any purpose for that trail, and it would be very expensive for the developer to build because it's required a certain type of fill and base, and it's required to have it lighted.
Question on that though, Bob, and maybe a clarification for city staff. When the application comes back down for the detailed development plan, I felt like in the last meeting, the applicant offered to look at alternate locations or routing for that trail, which would bring it outside, majority of that outside the geologic hazard area. I'm assuming that's correct, right? They would have the ability to route that the way they see fit when they come in for the detailed development plan.
Yeah, I would direct everybody to condition of approval number 11 on the GDP that says, Parcel B's future DDP application shall be required to make significant changes to its site plan in order to meet the city's geologic hazard code within the map plan site area within the geologic hazard zone for allowable earth disturbances and dwelling unit density. And then, so it's saying that Parcel B hasn't been needing to be revised. And then I think what you're, it's tandem with condition of approval number 21 that says, the TSP project S28, which is the shared use path, shall be constructed as a public off-street pedestrian bicycle accessway for the portion of the tax lot that's not on the street. The applicant shall construct their portion of the TSP project within Parcel C, shared use path, and a 7 to 10 foot paved off-street ADA compliant pedestrian bicycle access way with lighting and landscaping as regulated by the code for the portion on Parcel B per the city standards. S28 shall be designed to minimize grade changes within the geologic hazard overlay zone to reduce areas graded or stripped of vegetation or covered with structures or impermeable surfaces to a maximum of 4,000 square feet. The applicant may choose to delay the construction of the Parcel B portion of the path to the DDP whereby the path may be able to be constructed at grade adjacent to the proposed parking lot, potentially making it exempt from the geologic hazards code.
Okay, so that answers my question. Okay. The other question that I was going to piggyback on your statement, Commissioner Sal, was the north end of the trail. When say the trail goes in, it terminates at the same point that they're showing right now. Who's responsible for the final connectivity of that trail, either to the neighborhood or to Metro's, the park that's north? Is that Metro property?
This is based on the testimony by Assistant City Engineer Josh Wheeler. There is one tax lot between this parcel and Hilltop Avenue. That connection would either go through as a city project through that tax lot at the very edge by the pump station, or working with Metro to go onto their property. But
Okay.
detailed, there is a gap.
Yeah, okay, thank you for that.
A couple quick comments on the geotech reports, since I think it's relevant to the discussion we're going to have. So there's 2 geotech reports. They're both included twice in the package. So the first one's October 8th, 2012. So that looks like it was done for Walmart. 29 drilled borings, 68 test pits, 3 to 50 feet. So that is hundreds of thousands of dollars of investigation. In terms of understanding the subsurface conditions on this site, that is as substantial as I've seen it on any development project. My concern is the second report, which is September 12, 2022, which I assume is what the applicant is basing their proposal upon. First of all, it's to a different entity. If you read the project description, it's 15 multi-story, 2 to 3 level apartment buildings. And if you look at the test pit locations in the background, you can see these 15 buildings. It's actually a geotech report for a different project. Now, the subgrade conditions, that's consistent, right? But the question is, how much load at what locations? So just something to consider as you go through this information. I am not comfortable, and I actually appreciated the letter from the applicant reading 1744-060L. I actually think we do have the ability to review what is being proposed to geotechnically improve the site and make a recommendation based on that. Being that that report seems to refer to a different development layout, I have concerns when it comes to prevent and assure in that paragraph.
Yeah, I think that, for me, I think that really, given that I am not a geotechnical engineer, and given that there is a little bit of a discrepancy in the data, the geotechnical data for this site, and that it isn't really in parity with what they're actually proposing, that would bring me even more to rely on staff's opinion about where we're at on as far as interpreting the geotechnical data for this site and where the project should actually end up.
Though I would say when the applicant, how this decision is played out, in the end, the applicant wants to build the facility. When they go in to request a building permit, that application material would have to be updated and current to whatever they propose to build. Regardless of what they propose to build and how they cite it, it doesn't change the subsoil conditions. So those are all going to be the same, right? That could be something that we condition, that all of the documentation is brought up to speed and current. So I appreciate your thoroughness, Commissioner Anderson. It's a little bit far and beyond, but I do think that there's checks and balances for that as the applicant would move forward.
There is a safe way to do this. The question is, what is that path from a land use perspective?
Yeah, I just don't feel like there's enough information before us to make that determination as a review authority tonight. And I think that it's probably good that we.
Well, I think you just apply a
Staff's and
condition.
the city engineer's position on where we land on this.
I think the condition then, if you want to move forward with approving, would be something along the lines of, we approve with the condition that a new geotechnical report be issued and approved by the city engineer before any construction, or you have to bring the stuff back to the planning commission or some sort of condition like that.
Yeah, we would not be able to just condition something based on the favorable outcome of a study. We would have to determine whether or not that study was valid and get.
Well, one thing we're facing real soon, though, is the 120-day provision.
Yeah.
What date would that be, Christine?
Or because the applicant has not chosen to extend the 120, this planning commission needs to make a decision tonight
Yeah.
to allow the notice and appeal time. So whatever, whatever conditions you add would be added tonight. And And then once again, the staff would write up those additional findings and you'd adopt them. I just want to remind everybody, this is more of just a process note. If you, for the fourth question, if you agree with staff's interpretation that that 1744-060L does not allow to have additional development past 4,000 square feet, then you would basically be adopting the city's finding and conditions. If you do think they do, you do have the ability, then you need to provide staff, your thoughts, and we would, write them down, and we would come up with what conditions we would revise, and then we would work on revised conditions and revise findings, and we can do that. But I just want to remind everybody, the recommended conditions of approval are based on the interpretation that 1740-060L has a limit of 4,000 square feet disturbance area.
Right.
And that's baked into the existing staff reports. You don't have to make additional findings. But if
Yeah,
you
and
feel as the planning commission that you disagree and that you do have the ability to interpret that to allow more than 4,000 square feet, you would need to work with Missy and myself to come up with those additional findings, and we'd have to decide which conditions would need to be
Right.
revised.
Can I just add to, thank you, Christina, if I can just add that the 1744-060L, this applies to all properties located within the geologic hazards overlay zone. And so when we're looking at this application, I think it's important to keep in mind that if the Planning Commission decides that it prefers the applicant's interpretation, it's very likely that other properties in the geologic hazard overlay zone would also like to be subject to that interpretation.
Right.
Correct.
I'm not saying necessarily that it's going to be binding, but an interpretation that geological engineering and essentially a lot of money and the science can allow more development than is allowed in the code, is allowed outright in the code, is going to apply in the geologic hazard overlay zone to other residential development, commercial development, whatever it's zoned.
Right, so I think we need to look at the text and the context at which, why we made the improvements to the geotechnical section of the code to begin with. And I think this was one of the reasons why, was to try to prevent these kinds of developments from occurring so close to the rim of the canyon. Does that make sense to?
I was not here then, but that's
Yeah.
my understanding.
I mean, that's really, and I agree. I think that would set a precedent. I'm for the development. I think it's a good development. It's a good project, but it might need to be a little, contracted a little bit to meet all of the physical aspects of the site out there. I mean, I don't think you can just ignore all that stuff.
Here's another situation as well. There's a lot of the neighborhood of the canyon in my neighborhood, and there's a lot of the canyon for sale right now. And there's parts of the canyon where by foot, I would not walk down, just by foot, that is for sale. So, I would not feel comfortable even walking down that canyon. So if this is an example of what we're going to be doing in the future, I'm pretty skeptical. I mean, there's parts of the canyon for sale right now that would scare me getting developed, and not just because it's in my neighborhood. So that's something that, if we're looking this as an example, I would be, there's parts of it that are just so unstable. And, we have had apartment complex collapse in Oregon City before in the canyon. So it's something to think about.
Yeah, I would just say that I think what the applicant is proposing is a little different. It's not at the top of the slope. It's set back and even further set back. So when you actually look at the existing topography of the site, that area is relatively flat. It's pinched in. So I would just say it's not like we're building or allowing or setting a precedent to build right at the top of the slope. and encouraging landslide. I mean, I do think the applicant has done a good job of trying to mitigate the hazard and at least put the money into provincial terms.
We just need to be looking at each situation individually and not looking at, that's what, we just need to be looking at each situation carefully.
Yeah, would agree with that.
And I agree with you. The apartment building is outside the buffer zone. It's just parking lot we're talking about. But unfortunately, I don't agree with the applicant's interpretation, which means they can't put the parking lot there. They can put the apartment building, since it's not sited inside of it, they just have to get rid of the parking lot.
And I do agree with you, Brandon, on the situation that you're talking about compared to other parts of the canyon, so.
Yeah. Christina, in the code, is there does it distinguish between the buffer and the actual landslide hazard area?
Let me find a map.
Okay.
Excuse me, Commissioner Dole, sorry.
Commissioner Dole, do you mean on the map, like in the zone? Is there a buffer zone?
Yeah,
Landslide zone?
does the code distinguish between is that whole area, including the buffer, the hazard area? Or do they distinguish the difference between the buffer? Because I know in some jurisdictions,
I believe the entire area is in the geologic hazard overlay zone, including the buffer.
okay.
Is that right?
I'm trying to find see if we should have a map in the record that shows the landslide deposit and the buffer. I just need to figure out where it is. So
Yeah.
I will pop back in as you're doing your deliberation, let you know when I find it.
Yeah.
And it's my understanding from, again, testimony in the record from last week that in 2021, the city was seeking to provide clarity by drawing the geologic hazard overlay zone line to include the buffer.
Okay.
And it was expanded from where it had been.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the assistant city engineer testified to that last week.
It is in page 59 of the master plan staff report.
Okay.
It's figure 11,
Thanks, Christina.
and you'll see the GIS
Yeah.
layers to your left.
I'm going to ask the commissioners that we take a short break.
Concentrate on what's going on.
And I think the city attorney had some
Yes.
comments to make. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. So the last thing that we were discussing was the way that the Planning Commission ends up interpreting how 1744-060L applies is because it's a provision of the city code, you know, this will be somewhat binding on future applications. And so I think somebody made a comment like, we have to look really carefully at this on a case-by-case basis. I can't remember what the language was, but in fact, because it's a provision of the code and because it implements the city's drawn geologic hazards overlay, it's sort of the opposite in that it's not on a case-by-case basis. The idea of a case-by-case basis is what a variance is for. And we heard testimony last week from planning staff and from the assistant city engineer that the city does not allow its normal variance process to vary the standards of the geologic hazards overlay zone. You know, the city has a variance process like many codes do,
Right.
and with typical variance criteria, but that has never been available to vary from the geologic hazard overlay zone standards, which are their own set of standards, and they're again health and safety standards. Do you want to add anything to that? Do you
Yeah,
all
I mean,
have any questions?
I think in
about
my
that?
mind that the only right approach to being able to encroach into that zone would be to make an actual code amendment or a text amendment and a map amendment to move that line so that it would accommodate the development rather than the other way around where you have the development just encroaching into the line. So I think making doing a code amendment and a map amendment would be a much better argument to have, to achieve what they want to achieve as opposed to them assuming that, that this line that's been drawn demarcating the buffer and the geologic hazard zone as discretionary, which I have trouble with.
Commissioners, one thing that might be helpful if you want to try to do it is to go through each of the 4 questions that are up on the slide and take a sort of
Exactly what Brand-
informal
Commissioner
poll,
Dole, yeah.
just to see where everyone is, sort of say, for the first question, I mean, Christina, if you have thoughts about this too.
I think just process-wise, trying to understand, separate what issues are rising at the top. I would kind of frame it in the 4 questions are, in your answer, do you feel that there's adequate conditions to address this question in the staff report? Or do conditions of approval need to be revised to answer this question? So kind of feel like you can get understanding if there, how many votes are
That's great.
adequate
Yeah.
conditions, and then in that sense, you are just adopting staff's findings and conditions, or no, I think there should be revised conditions, and you don't have to go through what the revised conditions are, but maybe that can help you narrow down what you want to have further deliberations on.
Right. Commissioner Dole was suggesting that very thing, and he wanted to just go through each one and poll the commissioners for where we're standing on each one of those. So yeah, if you could flash those up on our screens too, that would, we can see that too, I guess. So let's start with the first one. Has the applicant adequately demonstrated a need for the adjustment to the maximum parking standard on parcels A and B, or A and D, I'm sorry. My eyes are not very good. So Commissioner LaSalle, how about we start with you?
I'm still not sure where Thank you. I'm still not sure exactly where the maximum parking standard has been needed to be mitigated. I guess I'd have to look at the map.
Commissioner Dole? That's it.
I'd say, yeah, I would say that the applicant has adequately demonstrated it. I think staff has done a good job with recommending conditions of approval that address mitigation. So I would say yes.
Okay, so I think that, well, I'll go ahead and go to the other end.
I'm going to make this complicated.
Yeah. All right.
Yes on D, no on A.
Okay.
I kind of think I agree with that, but I also think one of the mitigations that is important and ties into all this, sorry, I'm going to do this, is the path, because while we recognize there's, a need for parking, we want to mitigate that additional parking by trying to get more people to not use that additional parking.
I agree with Commissioner Dole. Yes.
So I'm going to say no, because in light of the climate-friendly and equitable communities, we do enjoy the goal of reducing the amount of parking wherever we can. And in the spirit of doing any meaningful mitigation to the impervious surface, which can have a adverse effect on slides, and I understand that they are doing detention, but I would think that if they are serious about doing, slide mitigation and wanting to design their project to be compatible with that area, that they should reduce the amount of impervious surface and therefore the parking spaces.
Should we go to question 2 and take a
Question two,
poll?
Yeah, would
Okay.
be, has the applicant designed the drive-through facilities, parcels A and D, that are safe and contain adequate queue storage and adverse effects?
Should we pull up the map just so all commissioners
Yeah,
can see that?
yeah.
Thanks, Kelly.
Why don't you go ahead, yeah.
Starting from the other end, okay. I actually support both of these. When I look at specifically a conditional use and drive-throughs and the appropriate place to have them, I believe Molalla and Beaver Creek is that location. As I was absent when a lot of the deliberations occurred regarding safety and design, I am going to listen to my fellow commissioners to get a better idea of that. But right now, I would support both drive-throughs as currently designed.
Okay. Commissioner Carmine.
So I support the drive-throughs in principle, just not their design. I don't think they're safe as drawn on the master plan, as I've previously stated, especially the one on Parcel D, cutting off basically all pedestrian inflow from the potentially increased parking maximum parking lot to the store. It just seems like a really bad design. It would be seemingly a lot better to have it go around the back of the store and exit to the road, or, circle back around, just so that all those people that are getting from their car trying to get into the store aren't going to get run over by people trying to pull their chicken sandwich out of the bag and eat it. And the Parcel A is maybe less bad, but who knows what the drive-through will be. And that one seems like it would be pretty easy to, reverse the flow and just put the window kind of close to the road there so that the queue storage goes up and around the building. And I think those two improvements would make it, significantly safer than as implemented. But I agree that this is an appropriate location. They appear to have adequate queue storage, and all the rest. I'm just concerned about the safety.
I say yes on A and concerns about D.
And I will piggyback on Seth Henderson, Commissioner Henderson's comments on the access or the, I'm sorry, the drive-through. I'm sorry, I
didn't quite get what you.
oh, Commissioner Laws, go ahead.
Sorry,
and say
I
what
was
you were
typing
saying.
too fast.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I said, I'm not concerned as much about A, a little bit concerned about D.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I think D is the bigger problem, but if we could improve A, that would be great.
I'd like to revise my opinion.
Yeah, Commissioner LaSalle?
I agree with the other commissioners that parcel A is close, parcel D is far too dangerous to support.
And Commissioner Dole?
Yeah, but I would agree with what Commissioner Henderson said. I'm fine with both drive-throughs on A and D. I understand the concerns on D, but I feel this is a common situation. I feel there's precedent for this, and I'm willing to accept that one.
Okay. Okay, if you could bring the next question up. Okay, so do you agree or disagree with the staff recommendations to relocate the north end of the shared use path and integrate it into parcel B and improve visibility, move it away from the geohazard buffer area and allow its construction either concurrently with the DDP or as a future DDP on parcel B? And let's go ahead and start with Commissioner Henderson.
I'm putting significant thought into this. As I previously stated, I believe this path fundamentally is important as part of the TSP. However, I believe there is a way to dedicate the current property area as shown in the application for use of that path. And as far as whether building out the path or fee in lieu, this path becomes most beneficial when various portions of it are assembled together. And so does it create more of an issue today by just having a smaller single piece completed, with the understanding that we may also be creating a precedent similar to the geohazard interpretation? So I'm not sure if I completely answered that, but
Commissioners, this question really, it goes to condition 21 of the DDP, and that it might help to look at condition 21 as we're doing this poll, which is on page.
It's on page 5 of the DDP application. Let me just.
Condition 21, also just to reiterate from the last meeting, condition 21 is a response to Metro's concern about the proposed location of the path being in the gully and not visible from anywhere.
Yeah, and I think that it there's going to be a fairly complicated bit of engineering that is going to go into the design of this along that area. And I think that really, the pathway should be part of that equation at the outset. I don't think it should be an afterthought because who knows, certain aspects of the design could have designed their way right out of putting the pathway in a feasible location there. And
Okay.
So I think at the very least, it should all be looked at once. So if we do go to an in lieu fee, I would want to make sure that along with the as-built for the development, that should also include the pathway, so that it's all integrated into the design at the time.
So can I clarify, Commissioner Henderson, do you agree with the staff recommendation to relocate where the path is on parcel B, or do you disagree with the staff recommendation?
Can staff clarify one thing in that statement? Because the way that it reads right now, it implies that the north end of the path would end on parcel B. So ultimately, it would connect Beaver Creek to parcel B, is that correct?
No, what it's saying is it's moving from where it's shown by the applicant farther into parcel B and be integrated with the development of parcel B, but it's still going to the same connection point. It's just further into the parcel B site.
Thank you for that clarification.
Okay.
So the final design and how it gets from point A, where the road turns, to the north end of the property line, close, but not all the way to Hilltop, would be designed with the parcel B development.
Okay, so we'll start with Commissioner Henderson on whether or not they agree with the staff's suggestion for the location of the pathway.
I believe that, I believe that there's a design that makes the current location acceptable
As suggested by staff or by the applicant?
by the applicant.
Okay. Okay, Commissioner Garmont.
Which design? The proposed one from last week, which they had it relocated and snaking around the west and north edge, or the one in the original application that Metro had comments that were a concern?
I am specifically reading what is in condition of approval 17. So I'd have to look at a graphic in regards to the two changes that you were proposing.
Is this of the DDP?
Okay, I think we're looking at condition of approval
I'm in the DVP.
21 of the DDP for the path, which is on page 5 of the DDP.
Yeah, I was specifically reviewing the master plan. The general development plan, rather.
Okay,
Chair, go ahead.
got it.
I will review it in additional detail.
Sorry.
Okay, so we'll move on. Commissioner Garmont.
I think the path is
That
important.
is- that is true.
My experience living in other cities, Eugene especially, having paths and bike trails and walking paths are incredible for livability of the city. And I think you've got to start somewhere. And we should start requiring this to implement the TSP of all applicants where we can. So I think the path should be built by the applicant, because we want to make sure it actually gets built and doesn't get put onto a back burner or lost into the general fund. And I really recognize that while it may be currently a path to nowhere, getting that path to Metro's borders would allow Metro to then continue the path themselves to make it connect potentially. Obviously, that's not something we can do here. But if we don't put the path in, then that option doesn't exist.
Right. Commissioner Laws.
I agree that we should do the suggested path that the applicant agreed with Metro. And that's what I would recommend in the improvements with Metro. And that's what I would recommend. From what I've seen and heard of the area, any type of movement and improvement would greatly improve what its current state is. So we need to do something.
Commissioner LaSalle.
I agree with the staff recommendation.
Thank you. And Commissioner Dole.
Thanks, Commissioner. I too would emphasize the importance of the path. I think it does follow along with our comprehensive plan, TSP. I think we have plenty of developments throughout the city where we've asked for right-of-way improvements, connectivity improvements, where we have sidewalks that lead to an adjacent property that don't allow for full connectivity. So I do think we should ask the applicant to build the path. I guess where I'm a little stuck is obviously we want to minimize development in the geologic hazard area. And I think we should allow the applicant the option to route the path that best suits the application. But I have no quarrels with the proposed alignment.
Yep, okay, good. I also agree with staff's recommendation on the location of the pathway for all the reasons said tonight and reasons I've said before, and we will go back to Commissioner Henderson for his opinion.
Yeah, the problem I have specifically with condition of approval 21 is it talks about the 4,000 square feet.
Right.
And I respect staff tremendously and the efforts they put in. I fundamentally disagree with the plain language reading of 1744-060L when it talks about proposed geotechnical remediation. So I can agree to the location of it. I have a challenge with that specific verbiage in the condition of approval.
Okay, very good. Okay, and then we've got the final question. Do you agree or disagree with staff's interpretation of OCMC 1744060L and development standards? That staff does not have the authority to approve the development in the buffer area and beyond 4,000 square feet of surface area, graded or stripped of vegetation or covered with structures or impermeable surfaces, impervious surfaces. So we'll go ahead and start with Commissioner LaSalle.
I agree with the staff recommendation.
Yeah, I do not. I don't agree. Yeah. And again, full respect for city staff and their abilities and the work they put into this application. But I do think that that statement does give flexibility for potential sites like this. And again, I feel the applicant's proposal that reduces potential for landslides, that is locating buildings that are habited by people outside of the buffer zone, along with their consultant, their geotech's recommendations for different remediation.
Okay, very good. And Commissioner Henderson.
To reiterate, again, the staff has a very difficult job. And when I read the plain language here, and I think about how this applies, obviously we are all interested in every development being as safe as possible. To state that there is no way to physically engineer a safe solution, and that is not part of what is referenced in this code section, I have a hard time with that interpretation.
Fair enough. Okay, I'm Commissioner Carmont.
Yes, so I tend to agree with the staff's reading of OCMC 1744 or 060L. While I completely agree that technology probably would make this safe and perhaps there should be a way for us to do it, I don't think that this section of the chapter provides us the ability to do that. I think this section of the chapter provides the review authority, the city, the ability to determine if the construction inside of that hazard zone is safe as proposed, and if not, require additional stuff. But it literally says the review authority may allow development in a known or potential hazard area as provided in this chapter, and the development as provided in this chapter is the development that's restricted to 4,000 square feet of disturbance and the rest. And if it said the review authority may allow any development in this known or potential hazard area that, you know, with mitigations, then I would agree that we have the ability to do that. But since it's restricted to this chapter, which has very specific requirements for construction within that hazard overlay zone, we can make it more or the city rather can make it more restrictive to ensure safety, but it doesn't say that we can just allow any construction.
Okay. Commissioner Laws?
I agree with city staff.
And I also agree with city staff, just to make it quick and brief, for the reasons I've mentioned before.
Feverishly writing. Okay, so the fourth question, I feel like there's been a preponderance of answers for that one. I'm going down and up. For the path, let's see, oh, hold on, okay. Want to make sure, there's a couple of nuanced answers, so I just want to make sure. Just real quickly, sorry, I wrote
No, that's
too
okay.
I wrote too much nuance in your comments, so I just want to make sure. Can you raise your hand if you agree with the path location and implementation as written in the staff report?
To clarify, we are talking specifically location.
Yes. Okay. I think the fee in lieu or easement issue, that's something that after we get through these 4 questions, if that's something that you want to discuss as a 5th question, that's something you can add on. So put that in your deliberation parking lot for a second. Okay, so for the drive-through facilities, I'm getting some feeling that there is some concern about Parcel D and its design. And this is one thing that would be helpful for me as staff. This is a conditional use to allow the drive-through. They haven't had their DDP yet. So if there is a condition of approval you would like to modify to provide additional direction that says, when you do your DDP for this site, the driveway shall, blank. That's a good way to implement your concern. And the reason I say that, because I'm not a transportation engineer. The applicant's not here. They don't have their transportation engineer. These were initially reviewed by both transportation engineers for kind of baseline safety. But if you have specific concerns, identify them, and maybe we can identify, maybe not the design solution, but when you do your design, please ensure the drive-through and then what you're concerned about. We can do that through this process.
So I think the bottom line on the drive-through was that the drive-through cars didn't conflict with the pedestrians walking in and out of the building. So if you have any kind of a design that achieves that, I think would probably be okay. Commissioner Lawson.
Real quick here, we've seen design issues. For example, we've seen Dutch Brothers here in Oregon City have issues with, like, on Molalla Avenue backing up. We've seen issues with it down on 7th Street backing up. They've problem solved those with hiring more staff. Ideally, you'd want the problem solved the first time in the design, right? Yeah. But they've had to work with what they've got. And then you look at the Chick-fil-A in Clackamas, it's backing up, on the street. And they've hired staff and created a different lane. I think if, they're limited in their construction on what they can do, if they can propose a way that they can be safe in terms of, let's say that they're constructionally limited on what they're able to do, right? In terms of their plans.
Sure, and I'm going to give you some things that are in the record to help you think about how you may want to revise that condition. So we can pop up, I actually this afternoon re-looked at the transportation impact analysis, and they identified the number of car is in the queue for each of those ones. That might be helpful. We can bring that up. We do have that opening day plan that we've added to the condition, the opening day safety plan. That kind of goes, I think, a little bit what you're talking about with Dutch Bros. Like, what's the plan to make sure, but that's more of an operational piece. I think what Commissioner Gamont was saying was, is there something fundamentally about the design location of like the path for the pedestrians, the parking lot location? If there is a direction that you feel is needed, that the applicant needs to implement through the DDP. But I think in this situation, identify what the problem is and then what the solution can be through the DDP development.
Okay.
Like something of, like obviously what was mentioned is safely pedestrians being able to walk, right? Like, some type of safety in terms of walking across and feeling, you were mentioning that. Like, is there a way that pedestrians could walk across there safely and somehow making cars stop?
Yeah, I mean, I think the condition could be something along the lines of the exit of the drive-through shall not cut off access from the parking lot to the store.
Okay.
No problem.
No. We're interested in modifying the conditional use drive-through condition for Parcel D, the fast food restaurant, or quick serve restaurant, for additional clarity. Let's move on. I'm going to recap the question related to the parking maximum, so we kind of have that. Okay, so for parking maximums, what I was seeing is let's see, this is where I'm trying to, can you raise your hand real quickly if you are supportive of the Parcel C maximums on both A and D, just so we can see that? Okay. For A, I heard some comments related to the design or related to, don't quite know what's going to be built there. As that was, Commissioner Gamont's comment was depending on additional, or is it dependent on a revised condition of approval? I want to make sure there's.
I think that was Commissioner Henderson that pointed out that depending on what goes in there, it may or may not be appropriate to have additional parking.
Okay.
If a bike store goes in, for instance, you probably don't need more parking.
Drive-through bike store.
That is accurate.
No, just kidding.
Okay, who's a yes on giving a parking maximum adjustment to Parcel D, the quick service restaurant? Okay. Who is supportive of giving a parking maximum to A, the multi-tenant commercial space? Okay.
I can't even picture it.
Okay. So okay, that's different than what I wrote down. So
Yeah, can you do that again?
Can we say that again?
Can you
Okay.
clarify that? Because I
Who
felt
is
like,
supportive of providing a parking maximum parking maximum adjustment for Parcel D, the quick service restaurant? Okay. Who is supportive of a parking maximum adjustment for A, the multi-tenant commercial space? Okay. For the people that did not raise their hand for the multi-tenant commercial space, raise your hand if you feel like there are conditions of approval you could add that would get you to supporting a parking maximum. For A.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is there is support for the quick service restaurant. I'm seeing 4 votes. But for Parcel A, the multi-tenant commercial, there needs to be additional deliberation discussions of how you would amend that condition for additional direction. Is that, okay.
So I just want to see more landscape islands and a richer, more robust landscaping plan. I know that we haven't had a chance to look at that, but I'm going to rely on staff to, provide that as a part of the DR.
My 2 cents, they have the ability to come back for that. If that variance is critical to a tenant identified in the future and a use, they have that ability during the DDP, though I understand it becomes a type 3. So I believe just maxing out parking for the intent of maxing out parking above what's currently in the code, I have a tough time with that.
Here. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that doesn't meet the demonstrated a need. But if they came and said, we're putting in a Trader Joe's or something like that, which is always a full parking lot, you could probably get away with
That
having
makes sense.
that.
Yeah.
So it's an unknown on the actual end user.
Yeah, and that's why I'm saying it's a rejection, because they haven't proved that that variance is required today. It is possible they could prove that in the future when they have additional information, which is different, which is the use and who the tenant is. And I am all for, if it provides a benefit to the community, then let's consider it. But today, that information isn't available. Did that help at all?
Okay, so for the folks that, well, actually, I mean, is there anybody, and this is more just, I'm trying to separate out what, is there anybody that has a different take on Parcel A's parking maximum adjustment than Commissioner Henderson? Okay, so what I'm hearing is it really is for that condition, it is that the parking maximum is denied at this time of the master plan because there is, the applicant has not shown adequate information related to a specific proposed use and the need based on the use itself. Is that what I'm hearing?
Just for parcel A?
Just for parcel A? Okay.
Right.
And as we move forward on, we will recess and we will work on revised conditions, but that can be attached, and the findings can be attached to the decision.
Okay.
Christina, is there a way in a condition to state that, right, to address that concern?
Yeah, sometimes people disagree with me, but I like to provide clarity and master plan conditions sometimes just to because there are different people and we all change and there's new commissions and there's new staff, and it's nice to iterate that sometimes in the condition of approval that, well, it really was not ripe for this review, but the planning commission supports the applicant resubmittal when at the time of DDP with the full. When you can say that kind of declaratory context statement to help future planning commissions and future staff understand that it wasn't a wholesale rejection.
Okay, thank you. What's next? I think we've gotten through all the questions.
Yeah, actually, I do
And-
have one.
Yeah.
And this is where, because of the Parcel D's drive-through and the concern, I'd like if Kelly could put on maybe a zoom in on just kind of the map of where Parcel D is. Maybe you can take that slide, but maybe kind of zoom in and really just look at that. Okay. Where my brain is the condition needs to provide enough specificity that the applicant understands when they've met it or not, because we're at a type 2 staff level decision. And so you need to design to ensure that, and then be very specific. So you can say, we've checked that box, we've ensured that X, Y, Z happens. So we can't use the word is safe or safer or doesn't conflict, because if you want to make sure that, maybe we can have a further discussion about what you are wanting to see in a revised DDP, and we can put that in.
So I guess the only concern that I see is if they were to redesign that drive-through so that it follows along the westerly boundary of that parcel, you're going to lose all your landscaping, and it's really going to be terrible to have both the roadway and then the drive-through right there, and without any landscape buffer for that building between the building and the street. So I think we really need to be sensitive to what that whole thing should be.
Yeah, I would agree with you, Commissioner Space. I was curious to the other commissioners that had the concern. Would a potential solution to be provide more, more striping, more signage where the cars would actually be, exiting the drive-through? Because there's only going to be so many ways in which a pedestrian can get to the front door of the building. So is that something that is amenable? Commissioner Henderson.
I was just going to throw out something for my fellow commissioners to consider. This is a standard layout for a specific tenant that has how many hundreds of these locations? If it is unsafe and there's consistent accidents and they get sued, they don't stay in business very long. So I completely value concerns and comments about it being safer. I ask that you consider whether we are designing somebody else's use to the most safest use.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
It could just be a matter of where the doors are located, where the pedestrians enter, too.
Well, just
I
remind
disagree.
everybody that the front door is actually at the corner, right? So there is the entry door at the new road as well as Molalla Avenue. So pedestrians from the street are coming in through that way. If you are parking, and I think this is the comment, if you're parking and walking to the door, how are you safely getting from the parking lot to the door as they're crossing? I think that's what Commissioner Gamont was saying. And I'd like to look at condition of approval. Sorry, it's going to take me a second. I want to make sure I have the right one. About the opening day plan, just real quickly.
Well, and I'll just point out, so we all know it's Chick-fil-A, so I'm just going to go with that. The Chick-fil-A in Beaverton off of 10, I think it's 10, has this design effectively. And I go there not infrequently and have almost been run over a number of times. The location in Clackamas does not have this design where you can walk from the parking lot into the store without crossing the people exiting the drive-through. And that's how most quick serve restaurant drive-through designs are as well. If you think about the McDonald's that's across the street, the parking lot is bounded by the drive-through. If you think about the Taco Bell in Berry Hill Shopping Center, that's the more general design for a drive-through. And so having experienced Chick-fil-A's that have this design and different designs, I strongly feel that this design is less safe and not adequately safe. I have no problem with the drive-through itself.
I agree with everything you just said, but we're restricting ourselves to the building having to be in that location. Who says the building has to be in
Agreed.
that exact location? They could redesign the location of the building to make the drive-through exit not go across the parking lot, which I would strongly recommend. Because that's a highly dangerous situation. People coming in and out of there with their children. I personally had a child hit by a car in that kind of a situation because my little girl ran away.
They do that.
It's easy to happen, so don't restrict ourselves to the building being in that exact spot.
Real quickly, just to provide guidance, city code actually does require the building to be in that location. So they're designing the drive-through based on the building in a specific, and driveways need to be on the side and rear. So that's where the starting point. What I'm hearing, and maybe you can let me know, is you are wanting to see at the DDP level a design that has a raised pedestrian path either through the parking lot or at the edge of the parking lot that allows for pedestrians to get to the street. Now, they're either going to be going raised right in front, right, where you're crossing, as you're leaving the drive-through, and I've seen stop signs where they've done that. or you're bringing it towards the out where they're at the driveway apron onto the street. So like, those are the two ways you can get from the parking lot to the, but just, the building needs to be at the corner lot
Sure.
because of the code.
I mean, why couldn't you design it so that the bottom entry to parcel D is the entry to the drive-through and it runs along the road up to the side of the building and then exits to the road, and you could have the parking lot more where the waste or the stormwater and drive-through is right now, or something like that.
Yeah,
You could have the drive-through follow the yellow road there, the new proposed road, to get around to the building, and then have the parking lot on the other side of it, and then the exit could just be out to the road.
Well, I'd like to know why they are restricted to have the building at that exact location.
sure.
on the
It's a
property.
corner lot of a transit street and a street, and buildings must be built for the MUC1 zone at the corner of two intersecting streets. So they're building at the corner of the street. So that building they would have to get a variance or to have it not in that location.
Hey, good news. I know somebody that can do that for them.
Christina, quick
Yeah.
question. When you say a raised access, are you talking about just a slightly
Yeah, yeah.
elevated crosswalk? Or are you talking about actually being able to get
No,
into
no.
it without going across travel?
It's more than striping. Our code, when we do
Okay.
pedestrian connections, is either a different material or a raised.
That
a different
sounds like a
pedestrian
great
connections.
solution.
So I don't have the answer. You are still intersecting with either right at the drive-through, at where the drive-through and the building meet. And I have seen where there's kind of like, stop and you can let pedestrians pass and there's people there. That's like an operations plan. Or you're sending people to connect up in a sense, like to take the sidewalk from onto the new street back, crossing the drive aisle. And that you can do that. I mean, we can require that they have to get there, or they can get there. The way this is laid out, you are using a combination of operations plan, signage, and potentially raised pedestrian.
How about if we had a condition of approval that required the developer to install a rapid flashing beacon at that site where the pedestrians cross that exit from the drive-through?
Well, a rapid flashing beacon is more like something you would put in the right of way, but I understand what you're saying. It's like
The kind that
it's a
we have
wayfinding
in
operations safeties
crosswalks.
plan. And I've seen it with more of like you have a stop, you have, once again, I am not an engineer, and that's why I'm trying to provide enough direction without designing this, because none of us here are transportation engineers. There is a toolbox of options that transportation engineers have to address safety concerns. So I'm trying to find a way to put your concerns into a condition that will allow an expert to implement it.
So I think something along the lines of a raised crosswalk in that location would probably be the best solution at this point. It's not great, but it's better than what it is now, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly better than what it is, but I'd rather, I think, see the building move south by 20 feet and have the drive-throughs wrap around and just exit to the street.
Yeah, and you actually can't have a driveway in front between the building and the street. That would be another variance. And so I'm saying, the way this is laid out requires no variances by the city.
Okay,
Besides
Except
parking.
for parking, I'm saying for the conditional use. Yeah.
so let's poll the commission and see if a raised crosswalk is going to fly at this point. All right, Commissioner LaSalle.
I say yes because it's better than nothing.
Right. Commissioner Dole?
Yeah, I would agree.
Commissioner Henderson?
I'm comfortable with the current design, so anything that improves safety to the level that my commissioners are satisfied, I am fine with.
Fabulous. Commissioner Carmont?
Oh,
Commissioner Garmont? Yeah,
Guymont?
yeah, I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
I apologize, yeah.
I mean, I think there's better ways to go about it, but it's certainly better than it is.
And Commissioner Laws?
I would say yes, because I think they fit a lot on that lot, and I can't imagine reconstructing that plan, so.
Okay. And I also agree that the raised sidewalk would be better than nothing at this point.
Okay. What I have really are two conditions of approval that are amended, and I want to make sure when we do our recess that there's not like a string to another condition, but these two topics, which is findings and revised condition for the parking maximum adjustment on parcel A, that it's not ripe yet, but that the planning commission encouraged the applicant to return at the time of a DDP when there's a fully fleshed out design so they can fully analyze for impact. And D, as it relates to the approval of the conditional use for the drive-through, that a raised pedestrian crossing, and I can take a look at our code a little bit, shall be implemented to ensure that pedestrian traffic from the parking lot, there is a raised pedestrian connection from the parking lot to the front door that crosses the drive-through exit lane.
Okay.
And I will write that in a much more coherent condition.
All right. All right. All right. Yeah,
And then
that sounds-
because you've provided the direction related to the geologic hazards and the shared use path, that is as recommended. But one thing we haven't done, and it'd be nice to have a poll about the applicant's request for just an easement and fee in lieu. And I wanted to see if we can poll the planning commission on that question as well.
Okay, we can start on that now if you want. Okay. Commissioner Garmont?
I think it should be built. I don't think there should be a fee in lieu.
Okay, Commissioner Henderson?
I'm comfortable with either.
Comfortable with what, I'm sorry?
With a fee in lieu or
Fee in lieu?
having it built. So,
So
I see what you're saying.
It's either or.
Yes.
Fee in lieu or build it now.
I am fine with the fee in lieu.
Okay, Commissioner Laws?
I'm for build it now. I do not like fee in lieu.
Commissioner LaSalle?
I'm in favor of the fee in lieu of.
Okay. And Commissioner Dole?
Yeah, I would accept a fee in lieu.
And I would be a fan of building it now, so I think that brings us to 4-4, is that correct?
3 to
Is it
3.
3-3, I mean?
So
Yeah.
keep talk amongst yourselves.
So I can go ahead and accept the fee in lieu if that's what we're.
No, Commissioner Dole should accept
Commissioner
the build it now.
No fee in lieu.
Well, that's not where I was going.
All right, I'll withhold my opinion and keep with the, build it now until we hear from everybody again.
Christina, can you talk a little bit about establishing the fee? The applicant was throwing numbers around in the last hearing.
Yeah, and I am not the staff person for this. This would be, our assistant city engineer, but we do have a fee and lieu process. I think we'd probably make them actually design it, so we'd have usually you get some type of design, so work still has to be done.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
We wouldn't take the applicant's number. We would have something that we'd have to agree on. And then we have a fee and lieu process. Just to remind everybody, our fee and lieu, it doesn't go to the general fund. It is held in a special account until such time it's built.
Yeah.
And if that's 25 years, it's held in that account for 25 years.
That was my only reservation with the fee in lieu. The number that was, kind of being thrown out, in my mind, wouldn't match the cost to actually construct the path. So I think if we require the applicant to follow the process and work with the city to establish an adequate fee based on an actual design, then I'm fine with the fee in lieu.
Go ahead. I would just suggest that at times, it can be more detrimental to build out a small portion of a path. For instance, Commissioner Laws, you brought up the one testimony that was given about using that path essentially to park in the neighborhood and then use that path to walk into the multifamily. So there are times when the full path is not dedicated and ready to go, where building just a small portion can be as much a negative as a positive.
That is true. The thing that I have a hard time with the fee in lieu, as, you know, at times is when there's a fee in lieu, then things don't get done either. So that's what I have a hard time with the fee in lieu.
And if they do a fee in lieu based upon the price to build it today, and we're not going to build it for 5 years until everything's dedicated, all of a sudden that fee in lieu doesn't actually cover the construction, whereas if they just built it, it would be built, and we wouldn't be having to come up with additional funds.
Quick question. This path and this space are dedicated to the city, correct?
That's easement.
Okay, so ultimately
Well,
the city is
actually, yeah.
required to maintain this going forward?
Sorry, I realize your answers to the two kind of geologic hazard questions already answered this, so I'm going to give this, well, maybe I'll do it. Because you said you want to have the path integrated into Parcel B when it's at its DDP, a fee in lieu is not necessarily a needed condition of approval because it's just going to be integrated into Parcel B at the time of DDP. So you don't know if you need a fee in lieu for that.
In other words, it's going to be close enough to the building that it won't be just a path that's sitting there available for somebody to park and walk into the apartment buildings, I think was the example. Did I mishear that?
No. So I think by answering the question that you agree with staff that pulling it back is the correct interpretation of 1744,
Right.
then they'll just do it at the time of their DDP development.
Okay.
So a fee in lieu, it really is a fee in lieu inside a existing development. So it would make sense if it was off, if you had a different interpretation, that it could be built further down. But because you agreed with staff's interpretation of L, that requires it to bring it back
And so
up.
based on that, we don't have to have the fee in lieu discussion.
Yeah, and so I apologize that like it was a 1 to 2.
All right.
Yeah, I mean,
That was, remember, because of the Metro's concerns, satisfying Metro's concerns.
Got it. Okay. All right.
Are we good on that?
So now I think we've got everything resolved,
yeah,
right?
I think what we need now is a recess, and staff is going to work on the additional findings and the revisions to the condition, the conditional use condition, and the parking maximum condition.
Okay.
And we're going to quickly look through all the other conditions to make sure that there's not like a tie in there. And then we're going to come back and we're going to write it on the screen, and you're going to see it in your.
All right. Do you need about 20 minutes for that?
15?
Can I make one more proposal as part of this? Can we also include either reversing the drive-through or a raised pedestrian as part of the Parcel A drive-through? Because it suffers from a similar problem where people are entering from the street, going around the back of the building, and then exiting right off into the parking lot. Whereas they could go around the back of the building and then exit onto the street. If they reverse the direction, or, and if they don't want to reverse the direction, then the solution that we decide for the Parcel D would be, somewhat acceptable for Parcel A.
So
Do we need the
perhaps
map?
we can propose a condition that would just simply say any pedestrian access that crosses a drive-through exit as part of the GDP will institute raised
Sure.
pathways.
To the front door,
That would work, yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Raised or segregated.
Commissioner Laws?
One last thing too, we had public testimony about concerns on a side street. There's a barricade at like a wall where the Wendy's is. And, the neighbors were concerned there. There's all, anyways, not because of any special reasons, but there could be concerns there of of traffic and other things on that side street that could not handle for safety concerns. So, and then in another way, I've seen land use decisions in my personal background in the past where it could be also a safety concern because of access for fire and other things. So it may not be an option, right? To have some type of wall there, but it's something to maybe look at or entertain, because there is a side street there that may not be able to handle just all the what's going to be happening there. And it's like so that's something to entertain, but then also what we're not entertaining is fire safety, and also to look at that, examine that too as well. Do you know what I'm talking about right there? We had some public testimony.
Well, I think that they were discussing, was this Hilltop Avenue?
Right, exactly.
And so was there discussion about people accessing the site from Hilltop?
Right, correct.
Yeah, like if the apartment parking lot was full,
Got it.
Right.
you might have people park on Hilltop
Yeah.
and take the shared use path over.
And this is my planner answer, which is going to be.
Okay. Your professional
Which
opinion.
is,
Yes.
the TIA did not bring it up.
Okay.
I generally, as staff, don't like to preempt something. If you have a situation where apartment residents are overutilizing on-street parking on somebody else's street, then that is something where those neighbors could have a parking program. And we've done that in McLaughlin, where we've had high-use businesses that sent out day employees parked all through the neighborhood, and McLaughlin come together and said, we want to have a parking program, which means if you don't, you get a parking permit if you live on the street, and if you don't, then you have a 2-hour parking minimum. So that's a kind of post-land use, like, once it's happening, is this an issue? Then there is a parking program in citywide that if neighbors wanted to get together, they could do a parking management program. And McLaughlin is a neighborhood that has chosen to do that in certain areas.
I have one of those in my neighborhood, and that's actually being removed in the city plan in the future. So they were talking about that as well for there is talk about that being removed eventually too. So it's interesting. So it's something to think about. Anyways, we can talk about that.
I'm generally more like, you can't, you need to have opening days, what's happening, and then there are non-land use solutions to
Right.
problems.
But anyways, all right, thank you.
I think as well, just to provide some clarification too, the area of concern was for Parcel B, which hasn't gone through the DDP process yet. And so
Okay.
having site-specific mitigation like that would be appropriate to have a conversation during that actual DEP.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
All right, we'll go ahead and recess so that staff can write up conditions. Thank you. I'm ready when you guys are. Okay, we are reconvening the planning commission meeting, and we are at the point now where we can review the conditions of approval that staff have been so arduously working on. Without any further,
Thank
if
you.
guys
I
have anything
actually
for us,
just
yeah.
received the supplementary. 1 second.
You did predict about 10 minutes.
Yeah. Oof. No, I am, but I'm, just 1 second. I'm just putting the supplementary findings in. Okay. Give me 1 second. I'm going to share my screen. Okay. So these are the conditions that we think are affected by your direction, and I'm going to go through them. Okay. So condition number 13.
Yeah, they can.
Okay. Condition of approval number 13 relates to the conditional use permit. And this amendment in underline shows, it says all drive-through queuing lanes and exits authorized by the conditional use permit, and that's for both A and D, shall be designed in a manner to provide an unobstructed pedestrian path of travel or a raised pedestrian path of travel when crossing vehicular queuing lanes. So that's for both of the drive-throughs.
Right,
Okay.
unobstructed pedestrian path. Now, did you guys want us to, you want to just go through all the conditions?
Yeah, I'm going to go through all of them.
Okay.
Okay. Number 14, so number 14 and 15 go together. So I basically removed parcel A from the parking maximum. And then I also added the parking maximum adjustment, parcel A is denied, this is 14, with this master plan application. As the applicant has not provided sufficient detail to demonstrate a need for the proposed use on parcel A, the applicant is encouraged to provide additional detail and apply for a future parking adjustment prior to the DDP when appropriate detail can be presented. So
Great.
it's letting them know. And then the 14 talks about the enhanced landscaping. So I added the underline issue related to trees under the power line. And then as you scroll down, removed parcel A areas, and then condition of approval 16 was if parcel A received their parking maximum, that would be the enhanced landscaping area to identify that it was not a corner lot because it was big landscape area. And so that's just being removed because that's not relevant now. And we provided supplemental findings to support these revised conditions, and I'll read them out, but they're available on the screen. These findings are intended to supplement the findings in the staff report for the general development plan. To the extent that the findings are inconsistent, these findings control. These supplemental findings replace the findings on the bottom in GDP staff report page 34 and top of page 35, beginning with when parcel A was initially proposed and ended with building A. It says, the Planning Commission concludes that the applicant has not provided sufficient evidence to satisfy criterion 17.52.015 C, section 3, which requires the applicant to demonstrate that modifying the amount of parking spaces will not significantly impact the use or function of the site and adjacent sites. No evidence regarding the identity and mix of tenants of parcel A is included in the record, and therefore it is not possible to know whether the required 68 maximum parking spaces is sufficient or should be increased to allow 102 spaces on parcel A. For example, if the tenant is a bike rental store, fewer car trips and parking requirements can be assumed. Moreover, the purpose of allowing a planning commission adjustment to increase parking maximum is to, quote, provide flexibility for those uses which may be extraordinary, unique, or provide greater flexibility in areas that can accommodate a denser development pattern or based on existing infrastructure and ability to access the site by means of walking, biking, or transit. Emphasis added, because the applicant has not demonstrated any uses that are extraordinary or unique that require additional parking beyond the maximum of 68 spaces, an adjustment is not warranted in the GDP at this time. The applicant may seek an adjustment to the parking maximum either concurrently with or prior to submitting a DDP for parcel A when additional details can be presented.
Fantastic. Yeah.
So based on your direction with the geologic hazards and shared use path, no changes to the DDP. We're directed by the Planning Commission, so we are keeping all the DDP is as recommended by staff. So with that, in your motion, you can make that, and we can go over if you have any questions about these specific conditions, but your motion will be as amended this evening, or do you want to have a specific?
I think it should be amended because,
Oh, no, what would their motion be?
what would your motion be?
Yeah, for the DDP.
Oh, for the DDP, I think the motion can stay the same
Okay.
as it was present, as it's
As presented, so,
Mhm.
okay. So before that moves forward, do you want to go over any of these conditions and provide any recommended revisions with what staff has come up with?
I'm fine with what you guys came up with. I think you did a great job. But I want to make sure that everybody else agrees.
I concur.
I'm seeing a nodding of heads. Is there anybody that would like to?
Just one really quick question. Unobstructed, what is your definition of that?
Where are we? We are,
The first one you read, talking about the drive-through and parcel D, you said unobstructed path, I believe?
oh, an unobstructed would be there's a way to get to through the parking lot that doesn't cross the drive-through aisle, or a raised pedestrian path of travel when crossing.
Got it.
So you get one or the other.
Yep,
Or
thank you,
both.
thank you for clarifying.
Yeah.
Christina, on that one, just, sorry, not to belabor on it, but the unobstructed across the drive aisle, does that include, like, would they be able to then find a path through the parking lot that is still, driving route? Does that make sense?
So this is related to the point where the pedestrians are crossing the drive-through aisle
Okay.
in both applications, A and D, both parcels.
Okay. So they could show a route through the parking lot outside of the actual drive aisle?
If they wanted to, or they could provide a raised crossing as it crosses the drive aisle.
Not to complicate things, it's late. You said parcel A, so you're walking from,
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
you're walking from the parking lot to the front of the retail, which is normally a lane that anybody parking in a parking lot for retail would cross to get to the stores. It also happens to be the drive aisle, the egress drive aisle. So are they going to have to do raised sidewalks for that portion from the parking area in A to the front of the stores?
This is just the perpendicular area that crosses the drive aisle.
The drive aisle, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like, I would almost feel comfortable with taking out the unobstructed and just limiting the language to a raised walkway across the drive aisle. The unobstructed seems to complicate that.
There's if I could help clarify, like Christina said, there are the two options, right? The unobstructed path concept would be that they are redesigning their plan to get to what Commissioner Gaimont was talking about, right? Where there's not a position in where a pedestrian would need to go from their parking area, cross the drive-through queuing area to then get to a front door, right? So that is an option where you can redesign and create that unobstructed path. The alternative would be when you have the intersection of a pedestrian pathway with the drive-through queue, then you have the raised pathway.
I just felt
This
like we
is
were-
just for the driveway queue portion of it, not the entirety of the parking lot itself, whereas Commissioner Henderson talks about you have the regular concept of people walking and having that interaction.
I'm tracking you. I just feel like the unobstructed, the only way for them to accomplish that is through a variance on the building location.
For parcel D,
Yeah, correct.
yeah,
Well,
that would be accurate for parcel D, but this
Yeah.
is a universal comment for parcels A and D.
just want to make sure I was tracking. Yeah.
Anything else? Okay, so I think we're ready for a motion.
I believe we had, could we maybe put the motions back up on the screen? Just from where we were 3 or 4 hours ago. Let's go back there. Maybe it was only 2 hours.
And just, so you know, I already incorporated, actually, if you, oh, you can't, you can just approve, this is for the GDP, approve the proposals with the modified conditions as presented this evening. Is that what I'm going to say, number 2?
Yes, number 2, well, it's a hybrid. I would say, Commissioners, it's a hybrid of 1 and 2 because we want a motion that includes enhanced landscaping condition.
Oh, we've already, and that's already been, that's
Sorry.
already included, yeah.
That's right.
In addition
Okay,
to the
we
modified
revised that. So
conditions.
number 2.
Yeah.
But if we could please have 2 separate motions and votes because they are 2 separate applications.
So it sounds like you would be a motion to approve and say out the full master plan file number with modified conditions as presented this evening, and modified conditions and findings as presented
Yes.
this evening. And then it sounds like for the DDP for the streets, it is going to be your option 1, which is approved with staff recommended conditions.
Okay.
So master plan is number 2, approved with modified conditions and findings as presented this evening. And the DDP will be the approve with staff's recommendations.
For the street, yeah,
Mhm.
okay. Anybody want to try it?
I'm going to give it a try.
All right.
This will be my first one. I'm going to make a motion that the Planning Commission approve GLUA 25-00025, CU 25-00001, MAS 25-00001, Park 25-0001, 1367 Molalla Ave, Master Plan, General Development Plan, with the modified conditions and findings as presented by staff in tonight's hearing. I think that covers it.
Yeah,
Okay, roll call.
I think you need a second.
I would second it.
Okay.
Okay. Commissioner LaSalle,
Aye.
Commissioner Laws,
Aye.
Commissioner Gamont,
Aye.
Commissioner Henderson,
Nay.
Vice Chair Dole,
Nay.
and Chair Espy.
Aye.
All right, do we have a second motion?
I'm sorry?
We need a second motion now for the detailed
Yeah, so
development.
let's have the second motion for the DDP street construction.
All right. I move that we approve GLUA 25-00025, MAS 25-00002, GEO 25-00007, and ROD 25-00012, 1367 Molalla Ave, detailed development review with the proposed staff recommendation as provided for in the staff findings and recommendations document.
Perfect. You need a second?
Anybody want a second?
I'll second.
Okay.
Commissioner LaSalle,
Aye.
Commissioner Laws,
Aye.
Commissioner Gamont,
Aye.
Commissioner Henderson,
Nay.
Vice Chair Dole,
Nay.
Chair Espy.
Aye.
Okay, and the motion passes. And
Okay, so now we have communications. Is there anything for the good of the order?
For the good of the order, we have just issued the Planning Commission agenda for next Monday. So we are getting a whole lot of y'all this month. I believe that there are 2+ items on that agenda. And then for any of those that are interested, the governor did veto the public meeting laws bill that would have provided some clarification regarding serial meetings and a couple of other things. They did approve the nomenclature of the hot dog bill. So we are able to get clarification on being able to provide food. So for those of you that have been demanding a pizza from me, I may make that happen sooner or later. And they also approved the requirement for a local government representative to be on the Oregon Government and Ethics Commission. So 2 out of the 3 in terms of public meeting law ain't bad. I have a inkling that the bill that was vetoed will likely come back in the long session with some clarifications and softer language. So we will be having some further conversations about the short session with Missy providing an update on House Bill 4037, probably next month. But if anybody has any questions about any other bills that came up, let us know. In the meantime, I would also like to identify that our Commissioner, Mike Mitchell, will be doing a presentation at the Oregon City Business Association, I'll get it right sooner or later, on the 28th of April to talk about housing development and growth in our community as well. So if anybody's interested in that, buy your ticket.
Very good.
And with that, I've got nothing else.
All
Yes,
right,
we
well-
just want to say we really appreciate you coming 3 Mondays in a row, because next Monday we'll see you back here.
Well, thanks for all of your great work on this. This was not an easy one to get through, and, you know, it was really nice to be able to have all of the options clearly laid out for us to be able to mull over and make decisions on. So, yeah, thanks so much. I really appreciate that. And with that, I'll adjourn the meeting.